Alright folks, recently I decided to do a strip featuring Mickey Mouse because Steamboat Willie went into public domain, and so I thought, oh, it'd be kind of fun to do a strip featuring Mickey, and I decided I'd feature Felix as the cat as well because they're so closely related, and I actually believe Felix was probably created before Mickey, and I think Felix was in cartoons before Mickey was invented. So that's why I decided to do both of these characters in the same strip. So I kind of had fun with this. This is kind of a neat throwback, and you know, it fits my style because I work obviously pen and ink on paper with metal nibs, and so I was like, oh, this will be fun. But it was actually, you know, more of a challenge than you might think at the beginning. As you saw, I did some tracings at the beginning there, and those were simply to get a feel for the shapes of these characters and sort of their dimensions and all that. I realized that Mickey and Felix are basically the same character. They're both, like I said, I think Mickey actually was copied off of Felix. And that's kind of what this strip is about. They're sort of fighting over bragging rights, and it's kind of, you know, kind of funny. But I'm actually inking this using my typical Browser & Co. number 513, and any India ink. I sometimes use a Browser & Co. 511, but the 511 and the 513 are going to get you this same type of really nice line, which is very flexible yet very sturdy at the same time. These nibs are great. They're very, very well designed, and they work just great. They got just the right amount of flex, and at the same time the right amount of sturdiness. So you can kind of push down on them. They won't bend out of shape right away. If you notice, I'm holding this nib almost perpendicular to the paper, so I'm trying to get the edge on the paper. I'm not drawing with the nib flat. I'm drawing with the nib at an angle, and I do that to get different types of lines. You see, I turn it in my fingers, and now it's really almost vertical at this point. The edge is what's hitting the paper, not the tip so much, it's the edge, and that gives me those nice thicks and thins. I know how much I can press down on the pen. You see there, I started thin and I got thick towards the middle. I know how much I can press down on it to get these types of lines. So again, back to the tracings. The tracings taught me that, in fact, Mickey and Felix, even though they look very simple in terms of the shapes, you really need to make an effort to keep these shapes nice and round, which is what I'm trying to do. When I'm working on ice cubes, I'm a lot more loose with my lines, so I will typically go faster when I'm drawing, whereas here I'm being a little bit more deliberate, and I'm being very careful with the weight of each line. So even though it looks like I'm going fast, this is sped up 2 times, 200%. So I'm actually going much slower than this in real life, but I decided to speed up because otherwise it would have gotten a little bit tedious. But so this is a little bit sped up, and you can see I'm really trying to keep my shapes rounded. I'm really trying to keep all the shapes and all the motion on the lines very fluid and rounded. So now I get to fill in the blacks, and I'm using this brush, which I made a mistake when I bought this brush. I don't like this brush. This is a Winsor & Newton, which is typically what I buy, and I do like the Winsor & Newton number 7s, Series 7 number 0s, which is what I typically use. But this brush is a particular design which is called the miniature format, which I had no idea even existed. And maybe it's a new thing they came out with. But when I went online to buy my Winsor Newton Series 7 number 0, I didn't notice that it said miniature next to it. And so I guess this is a different type of brush. I've never seen this kind of brush. It's so small. It carries so little ink. I mean, the tip is the same size. The tip is a number 0, but the brush itself is so small. It carries so little ink. It's very tedious. You can't see here because I cut out all the times that I'm re-dipping the brush, but I'm having to dip this brush like every couple of seconds, because you can see there it really just doesn't hold that much ink. So I really don't like that. I like my brush to have a lot of ink and I could just keep painting with it. So this miniature series is definitely a no-go for me. I won't buy them again. I don't like them. I don't understand why they even sell these. I'm not sure what they would be good for. I can't imagine what you'd paint with them. Maybe models, you know, plastic models, or, you know, hobby type stuff. But for me, it's not very useful. I used it on this strip, and you know, of course, they're very expensive. Winsor & Newton brushes are expensive. I mean, these are $20 brushes, so I'm not going to throw it away. I'm going to use it, but I don't like it, and I'm kind of mad at myself for not having paid closer attention to the listing and bought these and not have returned them right away. And the reason I didn't return them right away is because I didn't notice it until I started inking with one. And I'm like, wow, what is this? And I had no idea these types of brushes existed. They're called Series 7, they're called number 0. Everything else is the same except that it's the miniature brush. I'm like, wow, that's very confusing. Anyway, so here I am going over some of these words with a thicker pen. This is a Speedball C4, which is a flat calligraphy type pen. This is a pen that you might use if you're doing Gothic letters. It's flat, and so it splays out more. And you can see I'm also holding it at an angle to get a thicker letter, and so I emphasize some words with a thicker pen. I always do my text and speech balloons first. I always ink my letters first because you want to lock that down before you start doing any other work on the page, or at least I do. That's the way I do it, and I think it serves a very good purpose in that you don't want to run out of space for your letters. And you can kind of tell if someone's done the letters after doing the drawing, because you'll see where, you know, they had to readjust everything. But I like to do my lettering first, and I'll typically do it with a blue pencil so I don't have to erase it, and then I'll come back with my nibs and I'll write in my text. And to do my emphasis words, like for example the word cat and the word mouse, I did those with my C4 Speedball pen. Otherwise I use a just a normal Hunt, I can't remember what it's called, maybe a number 2 or something like that. Very stiff, fairly stiff pen. So here again I'm using my Brown & Co. nib and doing the outlines on Felix. And again, you can see I'm holding my pen really almost perpendicular in terms of the blade to the paper. I was leaving some negative space around the shapes because these characters, back in the 20s and 30s when these characters were designed, they were designed for cartoons. And they made the bodies completely black. That's why Felix and Mickey are both black, because I believe they were both copied off of each other. But the reason they're black is because in doing animation, these were made for animation, these characters. having a black body filled with ink was a lot more forgiving. So you could move ahead, and if you made a mistake, which you'll see, I will make a mistake in a second here. If you make a mistake, it's okay. You can fudge it because the body shape is basically all filled in with black. And so if you make a mistake, well, you just clearly can fix it using more ink. And that's why all the early 1930s cartoon characters are basically black, because they're all filled with ink like this. Also, before they invented the animation cell, the see-through acrylic cell, they used to paint these characters on paper. And obviously it was shot on black and white film, so black ink on white paper was, the best effect that you could get. And so that technique is why these guys are black, filled in black. What I'm trying to do is, as I'm filling it in, you can see sort of you lose some of the shapes. And so I tried to leave a little white outline to delineate some of the shapes, but you can see when I fill in with the ink, sometimes I make a mistake, and you'll see here, I'll go over this area, and because I wasn't quite sure like what to do with that foot there, and I painted it, and then I wasn't happy with it, but I just left it. So, and that's why these characters are filled with black, because it's a lot more forgiving when you do something like that. So here, again, I'm outlining Mickey with my pen nib, keeping the shapes nice and round. You can see I turned my hand, and I turned the nib in my hand for different. See, this one's almost straight on flat, but when see here, I turned it a little bit more on an angle. So it depends which line I'm trying to get, and I'll turn my pen between my fingers to get a different type of line each time, depending on what angle I might need to get that particular line. So drawing Felix and Mickey was more of a challenge than I thought at first. You saw how I turned my pen there just to get a flatter line. You see the pen's really on an angle here, really on an angle here, and I turned it back. See, turned it back flat. They were more of a challenge than you might have thought at the beginning to draw. You got to keep these shapes very regular. They're drawn in this real sort of bouncy ball style, and that was again because of animation. It was easier to do stretch and pull on these bouncy looking type of characters, rubber ball kind of characters I'd call them, and they're both the same dimensions. They're 3 heads tall, and they're all filled in with black, and so they're very similar. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to do both of them in the same comic strip. So basically, that's what I wanted to try to do, and I think it came out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the result. It was neat to experiment with this old school style of drawing, and very endearing to me, because obviously, these characters are timeless, and this style is really, really great, and has quite a legacy. This type of rounded, funny animal kind of style is very enduring, and I do use the same basics for drawing ice cubes, even though I'm a little bit more loose in my lines. But anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane here, and I hope I did these guys justice and didn't mess them up too bad. Yeah, I plan on doing more Felix and Friends strips in the future. This was the first one. I hope to do more old school cartoon characters making cameo appearances in Ice Cubes in the future. I hope you enjoyed it. And that's about it. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in. And don't forget to go visit the website, ICECUBEScomics.com.